Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you all are in the world. Some of my lovely subscribers and friends will remember that last year in September I did one or two videos regarding talks in Parliament, in UK Parliament, which started on the 7th of September in regards to a new online safety bill. Since that time, the UK Parliament Committee for this has continued to work towards trying to help stop the big social media platforms such as YouTube, Facebook, TikTok and Twitter from having harassment, bullying, harm, etc. online, as well as scamming. And one of the things that they are and have been looking at was actually fining the actual social media bosses, platforms, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok and Twitter. And obviously it's a difficult issue because we are talking about many countries on YouTube with many different laws, and actually getting these heads of these major social media platforms to listen. But on the 18th of January, there was another meeting at the Houses of Parliament, and one of the committee executives, Conservative MP Julian Knight, condemned the executives from YouTube, Facebook, TikTok and Twitter. He criticised their refusal to share information on scam artists with each other to protect the public, and demanded that all four firms paid back money that had been defrauded of Britons for many years. I put his brief video of him talking to these people within this video here, just so you can see. The basis of what he said was social media bosses, were labelled a disgrace in the Houses of Parliament today, the 18th of January as it was then, as I'm doing this retrospectively, for failing to do enough to stop online scams in an extraordinary attack by a furious committee chairman. Conservative MP Julian Knight left executives from YouTube, Facebook, TikTok and Twitter sitting in silence as he condemned their refusal to share information on scam artists with each other to protect the public. He demanded that all four companies paid back money that had been defrauded of Britons for many years, while the firms were taking adverts from companies not authorised by the Financial Conduct Authority, the FCA. Mr. Knight said none of the companies share the data with each other, and were only doing so with the quotes already overworked police, giving scammers a better chance of targeting social media users on different platforms. He compared this to the mail order protection scheme, MOPS, an old scheme run by newspapers where direct response adverts were vetted before publication and the findings shared with other publishers to protect the readers. Pausing his questioning of the four bosses, an exasperated 50-year-old Mr. Knight issued the attack around 20 minutes into a digital culture, media and sport subcommittee on online harms and disinformation. He spoke to all social media platforms, including witnesses Iain Bundred, YouTube's head of public policy in the UK and Ireland, Richard Earle, the UK public policy manager for Facebook owner Meta, Elizabeth Cantor, TikTok's director of government relations and public policy, and Niamh McDade, Twitter's deputy head of UK policy. Conmen stole £754 million from Britons through fraud in just the first half of 2021, which was an increase of 30% on the previous year, according to trade group UK Finance, with most of these scams originating online. Interrupting an answer given by Mr. Earle today, Mr. Knight said, "I'll be honest with you, my thoughts. This goes to all social media platforms, frankly, is that you ought to pay back the money that has been defrauded of the British public over many years while you have been taking adverts which are not FCA authorised. Mr. Knight has plenty of expertise in the media industry, having been a personal finance and consumer rights journalist before entering the Houses of Commons. The MP for Solihull started off as a personal finance reporter for BBC News before becoming the money and property editor for The Independent on Sunday in 2007. And he told the hearing in the Grimmond Room at Portcullis House, "Now, I used to work in the dim and distant past in the newspaper industry, and at that stage we used to have mail order, MOPS it was called. You used to be able to see precisely whether or not a company had a deposit, whether or not it was authorised therefore to trade, and whether or not it could effectively advertise in your newspaper. And if you found that there was any sort of idea or linkage, or the idea that effectively these companies could not do so, you would phone each other up. You got on the phone, you told each other this company's dodgy and did not take their adverts." He continued, "Now, I don't see anything in what you've just said there. In fact, I know across all of your companies that none of you have effectively even shared this data with each other. You share it to the police, who are already overworked, but you don't do it with each other. And then secondly, as a result, you have for many years taken money from these scam artists and not actually made sure the one thing you could do to stop it, which is to prevent anyone advertising with you who was not FCA authorised. Personally, I think that's a disgrace, and I think it's been going on for far too long. And in each and every one of your companies should refund the British public any scam money they've been removed." That's actually not a question, that's an observation, I have to say at this point. But I just have to say, anything you say in that regard, I think you have just not done enough over a very long period of time. It seems incredible to me in the public, the idea that you're systematically, over a period of years, making money out of our constituents' misery over being defrauded. People have lost thousands of pounds. Some people have lost their entire livelihoods. Frankly, we have had people commit suicide as a result of the scams, and you have continued to take advertising throughout the entire time from organisations which are not FCA authorised, and only now are you pulling your finger out and bringing that very crucial change. You have just not done enough. This goes for all social media platforms, actually. You ought to pay back the money that has been defrauded of the British public over many years. Mr. Earle said in response, "We have been working to try and tackle these users of our platform ever since we first began to run adverts on our platforms many years ago. Certainly, one of the biggest challenges we face is that fraud and advertising scams are by their very nature designed to be difficult to tell apart from authentic advertising. That's why we've invested so much money in not just the pre-uploading review, but also our ability to see how scams are performing and use technology to look at any inauthentic signals from the producers of the adverts themselves. Representatives from Meta, Twitter, Instagram and TikTok were given a grilling by MPs at the hearing, which focused on an inquiry into online safety and online harms, and which has previously heard evidence from ex-Love Island contestant Amy Hart as an example. During the panel, Twitter was also heavily criticised for its verification process by John Nicholson MP for the Scottish National Party, Hill and South Perthshire. He cited a Twitter account that was created under the name Mickey Mouse, with the email Mickey Mouse, not my real name, and a phone number from a phone that costs 99p, and then tweeted the footballer Marcus Rashford the word squeak. Mr. Nicholson called Twitter's verification system hopeless and chaotic and said it did not work. He said you've tried to manipulate the description of an anonymous account because someone like that Mickey Mouse account is designated as a non-anonymous account under your current system. Your system does not work. If you can't protect him, Marcus Rashford, what hope is there for all the anonymous folk who just get the daily misery if they use your platform of abuse? I'm just bringing this out today because obviously we've seen quite a lot over the last couple of weeks in regards to scams going on online, or alleged scams, I should say, under law. But this is just one aspect, and it's just to say that whilst this is about looking at UK, Britain, it actually is also trying to address over time everywhere to stop people being scammed and to bring to book, if you like, the actual large social media platforms themselves, and to place heavy fines on them if possible. To stop them allowing either this, as I've just described, or creators on platforms who are harassing, doxing, bullying, etc. Anyway, I hope that's of interest to you. Take care of yourselves. Stay safe online. Much love, Carrie Pink.
No, I don't see anything in what you've just said there. And in fact, I know across the piece, across all your companies, none of you effectively even shared this data and this information with each other. You do share it to the police, they're already overworked, but you don't do it with each other. And then secondly, as a result, you have for many years taken money from these scam artists and then not actually made sure the one thing you could do to stop it, which is to prevent anyone advertising with you who was not FCA authorised. Personally, I think that's a disgrace, and I think it's been going on for far too long. And each and every one of your companies should refund the British public any scam money they've been actually removed. That's actually not a question. That's an observation, I have to say, at this point. But I just have to say, anything you say in that regard, I just think you've just not done enough over a long period of time.
Just to mention, I will add links into my description should anyone wish to take a look at the House of Parliament website. Thank you.